China on the West Coast. Mexico coming up from underneath us. We got China taking over the West Coast. We got, who knows, a lot of angry men. Liberal cities, the crime rate's very high. 15% of them causing a lot of havoc. Ellen gets dragged onto the plane with them, onto Air Force One. One of these dudes, or several of them that are in the Secret Service, are either Secret Service imposters or they have managed to bypass Yankee White. Let me tell you guys about Yankee White. So somebody that is on this plane has bypassed Yankee White. What is that? Yankee White is the highest. It is, okay, so you have multiple types of secret clearances, right? You have secret, right, or confidential, which is kind of like anybody can see it. Secret, which I've seen secret documents. It's not that cool. A lot of things get named as secret because it's just like time sensitive or sensitive. Then you have top secret. I have seen top secret documents. Those are like tricky things, right? That is a whole chunk, okay? Top secret is not as cool as it sounds because like top secrets will be shit like maps that you have to use as a lance fucking corporal to know how to like do this, that, and the other to plan a little bit of a patrol. That's a top secret map. Woo! Because more than likely because it has like the captain's like fucking fob location on it that everybody already knows already. That's top secret. After top secret comes basically compartmentalization. Okay? So those are clearances. Anybody with a secret or a top secret clearance can see basically any secret or top secret document. That doesn't mean that there's like a repository of them that you can go to and just be like, I know what to look for. It just means that you can go into all the top secret and secret areas, which are like lock-offs. It'll literally just be red around a door and says, no permission passed here without secret. No permission passed here without top secret. Okay. Those are super simple. A lot of that is just to keep non-essential personnel out of sensitive areas where you don't need people fucking around or people being like, who is that guy? So you just have your clearance. It'll be on your fucking badge. Your badge will like click. It's a whole thing. It's very simple. Past that is compartmentalization. Compartmentalization is fucking hardcore shit. Okay? To get just a top secret clearance, you have to have the FBI personally interview members of your family, and they will do background checks and financial checks, not just on you, but on your family. They will check out where your dad's from. They'll check out where your mom's from, your grandparents. They'll run down close associates of you. That's just for top secret. Yankee White is a section of compartmentalization. Yankee White means direct access to the President of the United States of America, and therefore secondary access, like side-eye, you would say, side-eye access to extremely compartmentalized to the president, secret, top secret, etc. style documents. So Yankee White is all that plus juice, basically, okay? And it's an ongoing thing. When you're in like that, Yankee White is for people like an 8th and I Marine Corps Barracks, Naval Station, fucking whatever the fuck, in Arlington. That is like the Marine Corps Silent Drill Team and the Marine Corps Body Squad and the Marine Corps Presidential Guard Detail, who goes and opens Marine Force One, you know, the fucking little, or Marine One, the little helicopter that the president gets on and off of and opens the door. Those are Yankee White guys. They jog around with you at Camp David. You get to go to Camp David. You have to have Yankee White clearance or a special dispensation from the president for like a visit. Yankee White is real, and Yankee White's continuous. They double check on you. They'll do random checks on you to make sure shit is up to point, because they can't have you going into Yankee White and then going outside and like accruing gambling debt and then owing some shady Chinese mafia figure from the fucking jerk-off parlor some sort of serious debt. It's a constant thing. Secret Service has all of that plus Secret Service compartmentalization. So they'll have Yankee White and then all of this other shit too. That's all constant. And then they're also going to be standing next to the Secret Service members. That shit that somebody could sneak onto it is fucking wild. That's the whole story of any other that's a Jack Ryan, you know what I mean? Like a Jack Ryan thriller, like Tom Clancy. That's the whole book. I can't really hammer this home enough how inconsequential somebody of that caliber being put into the president's direct vicinity would be. Like, even just like, well, what if he like replaced one real quick? They all work together. They know exactly who they are. They're in constant communication through the little fucking headsets. There's all sorts of electronic shit that you don't know about that's monitoring where these guys fucking are. Stupid, crazy, intense shit. Stuff that's actually pretty simple. We have Blue Force Tracker like we had in the military for those guys, okay? That's the whole fucking big story. These guys sneak into or are part of the Secret Service as terrorists. They sneak a fucking nuclear weapon, one of those magical nuclear weapons that only exist in fucking, what's his name? Old fucking Bobby Big Dick. I used to be a SEAL. This is how I saved the world from the Mooninites. Type nuclear device. A nuclear device that's like, for some reason, somehow this big and works. And I'm going to assume that that's a real thing to some degree, but also uranium and plutonium, all nuclear materials are super fucking heavy because they are quite literally the densest atoms. That's why they're so explosive. They're hyper dense. They're always disintegrating because they're literally too big. So like a lump of that shit is fucking heavy as fuck. All right. Somehow this guy snuck this onto Air Force One. I maybe it's in here. It's probably in one fucking paragraph after like multiple interludes of shit that like Glenn Beck was like, I really want you to, if you can, please just put in something about the Pizza Hut Martians. Anyway, the Omari is somehow on the thing. Like, so this guy, the Persian mastermind is on this plane. He wants to like negotiate with Prescott, something like that. Ellen is also on this plane. Ellen, the wife, second most important person in Texas. She does a yeehaw for no good reason on Air Force One. Air Force One is in the air over the Brooklyn Bridge, specifically right then, taking off, I guess, from like JFK Airport, wherever the fuck, O'Hare. I don't know. I can't remember. It is in the air over the Brooklyn Bridge, and she goes, and he's got his cell phone because cell phones set off bombs in, there's a donkey with a nuke in its stomach hidden on Air Force One. She goes and grabs this cell phone from this guy, and a nuclear bomb explodes on Air Force One immediately over top of the Brooklyn Bridge, where the entirety, I guess, of the nation's National Guards members are. Vaporizing everybody. They're like tens of thousands of people are dead. Ellen accomplished nothing. She's like, I don't want them to crash this plane into the city, and she fucking sets off a nuke, which is wild. I didn't think that would happen, but it did. She says her little line, "Take a bullet for you, babe," which, I mean, she really fucking stepped that pussy up. Fucking. That's to take a bullet, like, lady, you fucking set a nuclear bomb off, like, who knows how many feet from you. It was just, Air Force One exploded at approximately 2,000 feet. The daylight went bright, fucking poet, you know, then brighter, a blinding green flash in the sky, forcing people miles from the detonation to look away. The blast wave hit almost simultaneously with the light. I don't know why it would be green. That's a strange color for something exploding that quickly to be. It should be blue. Or ultraviolet. It really should be ultraviolet because, you know, this is like a physics concept. When something moves at you, it goes faster. So like the air and the light shouldn't be able to glow at anything. Like it's traveling the speed of light, and it's light also. So it should just be white because it's all bands, but something's getting filtered. But even green filtered light should still be moving so quick it turns blue. Right? Any physics people chime in. I don't know. Maybe this is something that he knows. Anyway, there's a green flash. The blast blew through skyscrapers, tearing them down sideways, their glass facades disintegrating almost immediately. It tore through Washington Heights, obliterated full blocks. It set the trees on fire through Fort Washington Park. Tenements blew apart like a house of cards. He describes this thing fucking exploding for forever. General Brett Hawthorne is in a cell and just sees a bunch of light, and he's like, oh no. This brings us to the epilogue. Oh, you thought there was going to be more after that? No, that is the story. True Allegiance is the story of a president who's so weirdly incompetent that everything falls apart, and he allows himself to be exploded. By the way, Air Force One and like the entire presidential security detail is just loaded down with shit like Geiger counters. That is just natural. So like, I don't know how you're going to get an enriched uranium chunk within the nation in a general sense is like difficult enough, but also like next to the president and then on Air Force One for a fucking above surface detonation. That's just fire. Like, good job. I get the best terrorist ever. Like, fuck, so good at terrorism. Good evening, my fellow Americans. Michigan's former governor becomes president, and then we go through a bunch of dumb shit. This is one of the most interesting 2 paragraphs in this entire thing. I'm going to read them out of with no context. This is just this new president, and tell me your vibes. I want to hear this in chat. This is I actually want to hear responses. I want your vibes of what you feel when I read this. I'm not going to give any other explanation. I'm just going to read these 2 paragraphs. Her enemies had questioned her qualifications, her achievements. They had implied that her sex had elevated her to the highest office in the land. They ignored her degree from Harvard, her law degree from Columbia. They had overlooked her. Her speaking style was mechanical. She was unlikable. She did not have the charm of Mark Prescott. She did not inspire. She was, as she liked to think of herself, a grinder. She did not, she reminded her subordinates, tolerate losing. I'm not going to talk more about that. But if you're watching back through home, if you're part of VOD Gang and you're experiencing this after the fact, this unfathomably long, 5-hour and counting long stream about Ben Shapiro's True Allegiance, tell me what you feel. I'm not going to say a thing about that. But what do you feel about those 2 paragraphs? What's the vibe there? I will say one thing. Feels like production. Feels like a little bit of projection. Okay, I want to make sure I get all these. So she becomes the president. She's like vaguely, I don't know. Oh yeah. So we begin to set up a secessionist 3-way tripartite conflict between Bubba Davis, who becomes the head of the People's Unified States of the Midwest. It's described as being like North Dakota, the whole oil belt shift, right? Texas all the way up to the Dakotas, up through the Dakotas. I think a little bit of Montana, down the cross through like just south of Illinois, and like that little triangle right there. The People's Republic of the Midwest. They blame the atomic bombing on him because that makes any sense at all. The Texas governor is blamed for an atomic bomb plot that was very clearly hatched by people that were on the plane because of Ellen being on it and connected to an attempted assassination plot against the former president. Because they had to blame someone, but like the most obvious culprit of the guy who did it, who was on the plane, is just never considered, because like you would have records of that, like fucking cell towers and the companies. Cell towers, by the way, cellular companies, that nuke can go off and there will be cellular protection buildings that are designed to withstand nukes in downtown New York City. If you ever see a building, a communications building, a building with no windows, no doors, except for the one that you go in through on the bottom in your city, and it's like a AT&T or something like that, that's a telecoms hub building, and those are designed to withstand nuclear explosions to maintain the communications hubs. Records from cell phone data are sent to those. So Like his cell phone will be connected to that bomb going off because he keeps using a fucking cell phone to set off bombs. Ellen Hawthorne is blamed for the plot. No real reason other than just she had bad vibes with Prescott, and I guess like her husband was like maybe he had a gun or something. I don't know. They just kind of throw shit together, which, you know, as a Republican trying to approach like the understanding of how like law goes, not investigating a crime and just assuming somebody's guilty because of vibes is like pretty much par for the course. There is Who is John Galt speeches all the way down through this. America's cool. Like shitty. You know, bad presidential speeches that we like cover on stuff. Like you like Vosh. You guys watch Vosh, the horse guy. You know, he like watched like fucking Joe Biden will walk out and give one of those speeches in the little whatever the fuck room, and everyone watches him approach. Hey, fellow Americans, you gotta understand, blah blah blah, and then he talks for like 15 minutes about shit and kind of informs everybody. Those can be cut out of all books. I just want everyone to know that. You don't ever have to put one of those whole fucking 15-minute long speeches in a book, which he did. I could read you. This is all dialogue. You see that? This is just the part where I took all of this. All of this is dialogue. There's one part where she says she wrote all dialogue. All of it. It's the whole he wrote a whole speech for a politician that does all of the like, what you need to understand is blah 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 blah. And it's not like a movie, you know? It's not like a Homelander giving that while you go through like a nice montage of like all the other characters and the boys, you know? He's giving this bullshit, but you're kind of like explaining more of the plot in the background. It is a nonstop fucking like, what is it, 15 graph dialogue block, which is gnarly. It's such a strange decision to make. And like about a person who is, you literally describe her as being boring, unlikable, in a charisma vacuum. And then you're just like, but I really want to see what she has to say for 15 straight paragraphs of fucking expository dialogue. I'll tell you what, you guys were asking me, last Monday, we did a dialogue class. Everything, if you ever read 5 fucking minutes of this book at any point, anything you see with dialogue, don't ever do that. Ever. Don't ever do that in a book and you'll live. You don't need to put the whole presidential speech. You can say, in a single paragraph, the president gave she gave a typical presidential speech with all the bells and whistles attached. God bless America. Our children are our future. Every little thing that you'd ever expect. Ending it with God bless us, everyone. Not a single new. But instead of doing a paraphrase, describing acoustically every fucking, literally writing out everything that she says is insanity. It speaks to an unwell mind. Because like, were you enjoying it while you did it? Like, were you like, fuck, oh, this goes hard. Because if it's a good speech, you know what I mean? Hey, riders of Rohan, you know, hold out your swords. Let us gently touch tips before we go into these fucking orcish battlefields. We may never see each other again. Like something that's that sick. I am proud on this day to call you all brother. Some shit like that. Sick. It's literally a fucking non-speech that's boring and like you wouldn't listen to in the real world. And it's like it's just a passing thing. Why weren't the terrorists Serbians? We don't know. We'll get to that. All right. Detroit, Michigan. We're on Levon. We go back to Levon. Levon makes it, okay? Our sole surviving protagonistic non-white character who is a villain. We got Levon, okay? Soledad's Latina, but like Soledad's like the white. She's just the whitest fucking Latina ever, you know? She just makes like chocolate chip cookies. She doesn't speak any fucking Spanish at all the entire time that I saw, at least. I don't know. I was kind of keeping an eye out for it. She speaks no Spanish. She's got no Spanish like vibes. She knows a dude named Emilio. She does not call. She hangs out with white supremacists all the time. Son racistas. Soledad, pero ¿por qué? ¿Por qué son tus amigos racistas? Todos racistas. I forgot to add this. A fat guy, a fat white guy who looks like a fucking white supremacist gets attacked by the black people. He gets black zombied in Detroit, and he gets saved from it after he gets dragged into a pile and like beat up with a tire iron. Actually, fucking Levon beats him up. And they find out later that his nickname when they're riding around is just Fatso. It's just wild. Oh yeah, that big guy, his nickname's Fatso. What the fuck? He's one of our brothers. Good old Fatso. Shush. Shush and shush and shish. Oh my god. Okay, so he's like not the real, he's like the king of Detroit, but not really, but like whatever. He did something with Detroit Energy. I don't give a fuck about any of this. It would have to be a whole book written better with other characters that support these people's individual plot lines, because this shit is fucking unparsable trash. So yeah, police departments across this country have a long legacy of racial. So yeah, basically like, hey, I know you guys all feel racist, but what if you join my collective of like liberal towns run by, I don't know, shifty black people? Levon looked at the faces of the mayors. Most of them nodded along. So here's what needs to happen, and here's what President Martin wants to happen. You're all going to set up civilian oversight commissions. These will be parallel to your city councils, and they'll have real authority, real public authority. He hoped his emphasis conveyed the threat. Just in case, he added, if not, I can guarantee violence will happen. That's a guarantee. My man managed to villainize civilian oversight committees by strongly suggesting that like black racial violence is something that like black people can fucking trigger like a superpower, because like this is a stand. You know, it looks like more like a My Hero Academia power. Like like this dude shows up in a villain mask and he's just like, black rage. Like every black person with my powers activated, every black person within a mile is going to come right here and they're going to attack as viciously as they can. What are we going to do, All Might? There's nothing we can do. Black rage. It's like, seriously. Am I fucking insane? His superpower is to turn entire black communities into like ultra zombies that will just attack white people on sight. Unironically, if it was just explicitly that, racist as it is, I would be so fucking down for the just utter psychosis of whatever fucking story that is. I want that. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I'm excited to see like the true Shapiroverse unleashed, you know? God damn. Call this guy Grift King, right? Levon, the Grift King. And so, yeah, he just creates a cabal of like liberal cities that are quite literally united under their collective fear of a black guy starting a riot. That I am describing it as directly as I can see it. I guess there's additional context, which is just jibber jabber that circles every point where I have to listen to people say a bunch of other shit that just still ends up right here. Let's see. There's also an inference in here that he's going to like help, I guess, just basically like not the good ones join the military as well, which is going to cause more problems. President Martin is unveiled as, I suppose, the tier 2 villain for next season. You know what I mean? The South China Sea we travel to. I can't remember why this is fucking here. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. So this is, by the way, writing wise, all just post credit scenes from any Avengers movie. Just think of that. This next one has nothing to do with anything unless you're aware of the deeper Shapiroverse. If you know all of the characters and stuff, okay, this is like seeing Thanos. You remember Thanos at the end of like Avengers? And like everyone's like, who that purple guy? But now everybody know who that purple guy. But at the time, who that purple guy? We just go to the South China Sea and just where it's a Chinese destroyer. I forgot this even happened. A Chinese destroyer is there leading an armada to the west coast of America. So like the west coast of America is about to be probably just conquered by China. Someone on fucking Venice Beach lights like a palm tree on fire. Now all of America knows you're coming, bro. See palm trees catch on fire and then the entire California hills go up. Your signal fires are very strong, American. Oh no, that one just happens. Those mountains just catch fire, bro. But the palm trees are for real. In the game of international politics, friendship, and partnership only went so far, Admiral Chen knew. Because what... Would it be something crazy like Lao Tzu? You know what I mean? Like sushi. Like there's crazy ass names. Crazy ass names. It would be fucking cool as shit if you just named him after like somebody from like Three Kingdoms. Just like Admiral Chow Chow. You know what I mean? But no, it's going to be Admiral Chen because fuck, dude. I'm not trying. Ben Shapiro's not trying to write a fucking name with an X in it. Okay, you know what I mean? That's a little much. That's a little fucking much. Okay. If there's a Vietnamese person in here that I fucking missed, their name's Win. I don't care that there's a lot of wins out there, but like it's never not gonna be. Okay. Austin, Texas. This is Governor Bubba. He's being impeached by Texas, who for some reason Texas is described in this as like being not 100% on board with fuck New York. They're like, well, maybe Governor Bubba, which is awesome. Governor Bubba did nuke New York, which unironically, even the fucking like, I feel like everybody in Texas would just be fucking stoked about. I know there's like a bunch of libs in Texas, right? You guys aren't fucking, we're not a monolith. But I think the possibility that the governor of Texas nuked fucking the East River, basically, between Manhattan and Brooklyn, like the possibility of that, the dude's approval rating would approach like quadruple digits. It would surpass numbers. The Grand United Kingdom of Blossoms and Oil in fucking Texas. You'd just be drawn up there with fucking like Chairman Mao. Oh my god. So yes, this is basically, even though, okay, so all of the National Guard has been exploded in New York, which is not even a fraction of the United States military power. It doesn't touch. We could just end the National Guard tomorrow. It would not affect America as a whole. It would just be very inconvenient for all of the states that rely on them for like random different things. The National Guard and like chunks of the army are gone. The United States Marine Corps, every base is still operational, all right, in the South Pacific. You know what I mean? Like Okinawa is Okinawa, okay? Our naval bases in Hawaii, all along the West Coast, all in Japan, Guam, American Samoa, all of those are still there. All of our worldwide bases are there. The entire East Coast, all of the strongest naval power on the entire East Coast is still active. The Chesapeake Bay is fine. Hampton Roads is churning out submarines and nuclear destroyers as we speak. Okay? Parris Island is training new Marines. Fort Bragg is okay. Fucking Fort Knox is okay. Fort Sumter is okay. We can just keep going. Camp Pendleton is okay. I can't name all of the fucking army. They're fine because they're not. The world does not revolve around Texas, L.A., and New York City. American military might is fine. NORAD is good. NORAD's just still there. All of our thousands of nukes on intercontinental ballistic missiles that are buried throughout the northern prairie are fine and safe and humming away with murderous intent below the earth. But the National Guard has been severely damaged by a nuclear bomb over the East River. So America has been destabilized. All right, understand that. Basically because in Shapiro land, the Shapiro-verse, the National Guard needs to be present because the National Guard is what you call to shoot black people with bigger guns when they misbehave. When you have like spicier Mexicans, when tus mexicanos son, I can't say demasiado picante. When your Mexicans are too spicy, you must bring in the National Guard to just start arbitrarily killing them. That's the Shapiro-verse version of this thing. Because they've been taken out, now everything's gone. So he'd spoken with the governors of Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Oklahoma, Arkansas, New Mexico, Arizona, Alabama, Georgia. He'd received calls from the governors of Nebraska, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Montana. Just fucking name. You can just say, like, every Midwestern governor had called him, and he'd agreed to meet with, like, more. My man named states in a row. Like a fucking Animaniacs song. The federal military still had tremendous resources, but the combination of Prescott's military cuts with the terror attack in New York had taxed them to their limits. If it came down to it, military action by the feds wouldn't be that easy. Wrong. Military cuts in 2010 would be reducing us to the size of like that happened back then, reduced us to the size of still twice what it took for us to conquer the entirety of Iraq in 28 days. And that's pre-war dudes. You still have fucking scrappers. Like, at this time that this came out, you got a bunch of fucking literal fucking Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. What do you mean I get to go fight Arkansas? That's fucking wild, bro. I'll do that. I'll do that right now. What do you fucking mean? The federal military? What a dipshit, dude. Like, who gives a fuck about Texas? Like, do you know how many bombs we have? We can end Texas. We can end anywhere. We're America. It's not even it's a mathematical thing. Like, the will you have to survive, it doesn't matter when we can just have like 700 whatever some odd people just do continuous refit and refuels on bombers and then just do a nonstop cluster bombing and nuclear cluster bombing run on your city. Like, you're wherever, it doesn't matter where you are. Whatever you're hiding in, we built it. We know about it. We ran the wires to it. You're in America. You belong to us. What do you mean my hand is going to leave? I'd cut it off first. Like, it's just insane. The secessionists go after this all the time, but whatever. So in the Shapiro-verse, we're getting ready for China, West Coast, Black Zombie Horde, whatever, from the Chicago to New York loop. Right, where all the black people in America live, just in like 15 cities between Chicago and Manhattan, and then also like some in like California. There's no black people live in like Arkansas or anything. So like that little loop of liberal cities, that zombie army is up there. In Mexico, we have the cartels, which are super soldier factories for drug dealers. I bet okay, I'll get through this and then I want to fucking do bets on what would come in the sequel, and then we'll fucking wrap it up. And I love you guys for sticking with me. Brett sat in an empty warehouse. They weren't going to risk bringing him back to a known facility. So Brett's in a warehouse. This is Soledad's entire point. Soledad comes here and breaks Brett out of prison. Okay, at the very end, Brett gets broken out of prison. This is how he thanks her. When he got to the street, he followed. They break into the prison. They give him a SWAT uniform and like sneak him out. All right, he's about to get like rendition to Guantanamo Bay or some shit. He followed the direction to the van. As he approached, the passenger side door popped open. He climbed in. A woman sat behind the wheel. Then Brett saw her face. He grabbed a fistful of her hair, pulling her toward him as she screamed. He placed his hand on her neck, gripping it. "Why?" he yelled. "Why would you do this? Who are you?" She just broke him out of prison. Bitch. Oh, okay. Well, this is the end of the story finally. They say like, oh, she's like, they call me a terrorist, but I was just a rancher. And it's like, they're going to form a tentative alliance, basically traditional military power, federal military power, the general, and disgruntled rancher. East Coast, West Coast. They say, where are we going? This is the final little exchange. I figure you're the general. You pick. Brett thought for a moment. Then he looked to the horizon again. Should we do this? With all due respect, I will do this in Disco Elysium as a thank you to everybody who stuck through this bullshit.
Brett thought for a moment.
I can't quite get it.
Thought for a moment. Then he looked to the horizon again, to the murky cloud of ash blotting out the rising stars. He set his jaw in a look Ellen would have recognized instantly as unshakable determination.
Let's head west,
he said.
I'm going home. I've talked so long, I can't do sick-ass voice. I'm so sorry. And then we're done. Ladies and gentlemen, that is True Allegiance by Ben Shapiro. It has to be the most conflated fucking book. It's not very long. Somebody asked me that a little while ago. I don't know how many words. I have it only on here, but this is it. You know what I mean? In Kindle, it said it's only got 3,468 positions. I don't really know how to equate that. I think when I was around halfway through, it said about an hour of read time left. So if this whole thing took me maybe like 2, I think that was also inaccurate. I think it actually took me like 3. So I think it took me about 4 to 6 hours to read it. Total of actual reading to get done. Which would probably put it in the ballpark of like 40 to 60K. You know, I can probably just ask. 272 pages. I'm literally sitting on Google Books right in front of me. God damn it. How many words is that? True Allegiance word count. 68,000 words, which is a pretty standard novel length. That's like a good short novel. That would be equivalent to things like Fight Club. All Chuck Palahniuk books, honestly. Goddamn. Thanks everybody who tuned in. Just in general, if you made it this far, goddamn. I don't even know if I can split this up. I mean, maybe I will because I can make some money off of it. But I won't listen to it again. I just can't. I can't experience this one more time. This was too much. If you're hanging out and you enjoyed this, I'm going to do a little bit more. I have to finish the entirety of it because I don't want to leave anything out and have stuff to talk about tomorrow. I'm just going to chalk this up as an overly long stream. I might just start like an hour late tomorrow or something. Forgive me, or the next 2 days, because I'm not going to be making a thing of staying up an additional 2 hours. But like painful, chunky. I do want to finish off everything that I have to say about it. First off, do you get the Shapiro verse? By the way. Almost actually interesting just because I'm actually kind of drumming it together. China on the West Coast,
Mexico coming up from underneath us. We got China taking over the West Coast. We got, who knows, a lot of angry men. Liberal cities, the crime rate's very high. 15% of them causing a lot of havoc. Midwest, we got some real patriots.
That would be the fucking funniest part, is if he like you did like a fucking Lucasfilms remake, and then someone comes up and it's like Karl Rove appears, like he's like a fucking like a reference to like an old movie. I know we have some problems, but I think I know the man for the job. And you just see like a fucking plane opens, and then you just see like a close up on Donald Trump's haircut. Bam!
Just give me 3 good men. I'll take care of it anytime.
Horrible book. Horrible book. Unfathomably bad. I think like there has to have been a worse book that I've read, and I'm not being performative when I say this is unbelievably bad. I remember seeing it on the shelves and being stunned in 2016 and being stunned that he had written a book. And this was before I even like really was like, Ben Shapiro's a dipshit. I was like, wait, the fucking nerd? the nerd that fucking picks fights with blue hairs wrote a book about fucking what? Like, what? This guy's a fucking geek, dude. He doesn't have anything to fucking say. It's bad. Convoluted. Poorly written. Unbelievably poorly written. Shad's book was better 100%. In almost every single way that you can state out loud, Shad M. Brooks is a better, I can say without reservation, Shad M. Brooks is a better writer than Ben Shapiro by far. I think by every single metric. Thank you, Mackenzie Carter Cameron, for $3. You're the best. What Shad has is, despite himself, a sense of taste and intention. Shad tried to tell a story. When he did, Shad's story was incapable because of his lack of talent and development of separating itself from his worldview, and his worldview, because he doesn't really have any sense of introspection, like poisoned his book and the overall quality of it. Ben Shapiro tried to write a like Turner Diaries-esque propaganda piece. It wasn't quite, Day of the Rope, but the inferences are very much there. It is unabashedly, I will say, unabashedly racist, or maybe just abashedly racist. It really skirts the line, and it is old enough and back in the day-ish enough that like it's kind of mask off because it doesn't know what mask to wear for the common conversation. I welcome anybody to reread things. I will not be, if you're watching back through this and you're a Ben Shapiro fan and you like want me to relook at stuff, I'm not going to do it. I have spent too much time talking about this book and engaging with it. But you're welcome to read back through it and like suggest that I was wrong about stuff. I don't think I was. My impressions were very real from the heartbeat or off rip, and it's just insane. I don't know how to interpret the vibe of black people in the book aside from basically being like a zombie apocalypse race. That vibe is just 100%. There's just one guy who has like a fucking quirk that allows him to upset the entire population of a given city to the point that he has their mayors under his beck and call. Like the fucking underworld leader who leads it from a prison, which is fucking wild. There's a whole subplot where he like kowtows a fucking like power company. It's too much. I don't even know where to go with this immediately. The military aspect of it is deeply ingrained in the entirety of the book, and he knows next to nothing about the military. Further, I don't think Ben Shapiro has a real personality or any sense of passion for anything. If he does, it doesn't show through. I don't even think he likes his real job of talking to people at all. I can tell when he knows something because he doesn't shut up about it. He has that sort of vibe where he likes to list things, so to say. So every time he doesn't know something, it's extraordinarily glaring because he kind of glosses over it or just says a wrong thing and then runs. Because, like, why are you saying specific fucking mosque schools that no one would know ever, period, ever? But then, like, you don't understand, like, simple things about, like, how a military base is set up while you're writing about them and opining on them in this. Because there's so many fucking obvious self-insert things that are happening. So many very, like, on the nose. And it's, if you can't get it and you don't understand how I figure these things out, I really can't help you. Take some fucking language courses, some fucking reading assessment things. You can fucking break it down on your own. Fuck. The habit of his, I really couldn't get into this, but, like, it was also the me skipping through things of just going off and explaining the conspiracy over and over and over and over and over again throughout it. A lot of times there would be, like, somebody will say a thing. They'll say a thing. And they'll explain it through, like, conspiracy terms over the course of, like, an entire paragraph that didn't need to be written, and is just, like, completely expletive, just 100 all the way laid out, everything. It's like no evidence or anything, just like the suggestion of this thing happened because of this, because of this, because of this, and then this happened because that happened, because this happened. But it's like that has nothing to do with the plot. I don't fucking care. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just a digression into fucking shit. I don't know if I'm reading a fictional book, so I'm not going to try to relate it to the real world as far as specific actions of things that happened, because first off, you've shown me that you don't know anything about the real world for stuff that I do know about, which is just specifically, like, journalism and being in America and the military itself. And those lapses make me not want to believe anything else that he says or talks about. And like I said before, I don't think he's a very intelligent guy. I don't know what people consider. People dream up definitions for words that are their own, and that's fine. You have your own interpretations of stuff. But I've heard people describe Ben Shapiro as being exceptionally smart, like an above average intellect. And this book hammers home more than anything else the fact that I don't think he is. I think he's got some sort of neurodivergence that's assisting him in, like, memorizing and listing trivia, which I can get from any person in a comic book store ever. He doesn't seem capable of assessing stuff. He doesn't seem to possess any sense of interest or curiosity. He's dull. He's bad at understanding people. I will never, after reading this, believe anything that Ben Shapiro has to say about anybody personally, because he doesn't seem like he has the ability to understand human beings at all, especially more than outside of anything deeper than, like, a political alliance or their race or ethnicity or their religion. Like, anything deeper than a fucking essentializing surface thing like that is just not there. He's not a good propagandist. This is terrible propaganda. It's not even real. I don't know who is going to read it, and then I don't know who's going to be able to read this and then also be stupid enough to believe anything that's in it, because it's too boring for chuds, and it's too stupid for me. Like, it's not written well enough to, like, convince me of something. So I don't know who the audience for this even is. I suppose people looking for novel forms of suicide, or at least just a reason to finally pull the trigger on that big decision. without a doubt, I would say that Shadiversity's book achieves even things that Ben Shapiro wanted to achieve with this better than Ben Shapiro could. I prefer Shadiversity's ham-handed, completely cards up on the table attempts at proselytizing people against fucking like communism and various like minor aspects of religion and faith and stuff, and his opinions towards women. I appreciate it more, and I think more people would be receptive to Shad's version. Shad is unironically, without a doubt, a better propagandist than Ben Shapiro. And the more I think of it, and the more I would actually even want to look into this, I think that might be true in real life as well. Because Ben Shapiro's fallen off, as far as I'm concerned. He doesn't do anything of interest anymore. He follows trends. I don't think he was particularly good in the first place. I think he talks fast. I think he got lucky exploiting the algorithm, but he couldn't even do that very long. He's not particularly interesting to anybody anymore. I think this Israel-Palestine thing is going to be his last gasp at relevance pretty much ever. I mean, when was the last time he did anything of interest? I think maybe he debated Destiny, and I didn't even watch it. And I don't know if I'm particularly interested in watching it at all. Anna Kasparian, he debated Anna Kasparian, and that was just like, for a bunch of like hand caps, that was dull. He doesn't make interesting points. He's not charismatic whatsoever. Anybody that describes Ben Shapiro as charismatic needs to have their head pushed underwater until their sinus is clear, or whatever the fuck it is that's wrong with them. He's a dull little rat person, like a little 5'6" hides in the walls and steals your cheese boy. There's nothing to him, and I've never thought that more or believed it more deeply than reading his attempt at fiction, which I've got to say, if you're out there and you're a right-wing propagandist, you've got to not give up on it. It's not for you. You can't, you not only can you probably not write, with all due respect, more than likely you shouldn't. Because there's a requirement. Like, you can paint, you can do like some of the easier stuff, with all due respect to artists and stuff, like line work, and you can kind of be anti-abstract with things like that and just get colors where they're supposed to be. But you have to understand that narrative creation requires a depth of humanity and an understanding of the extant world around you that you're going to be fully incapable of. It's not something that you'll be able to do. It'll feel like you can, like the strings will touch your hand, but you'll never weave them into anything of value, because that's just a thing it's the thing that makes you as a conservative also precludes you from access to this area of existence, which is depressing for you. That sucks, because writing's great. It's a blast, even if you don't do it successfully or for money, like I do. And I think that speaks to a deeper lack of humanity. Like, yeah, I know people have like, so like, you get too angry and you say mean things. I'm like, I don't know if I'm that particularly angry, unless it's something that's wasted my time, like a terrible, terrible book. I got paid $15 to read it, and I'm gonna tell you, that's fucking like $2 an hour. So thanks for donating in chat at this point. I hope this doesn't get demonetized and it makes like 10,000. I'll fucking retrim this and turn it into like 5 videos to try to fucking make that money back. But yeah, if you are a conservative, do not write a book for your own benefit, because so far conservatives that I've read their stuff, it just reveals not just, your deeper beliefs you have to go mask off, but it also kind of reveals those empty bits about you. It really shows the scoured bone, so to say, of your broken and uncreative soul. And that's probably not great for your bottom line ultimately. 2016 was the height of Shapiro. He probably made a bunch of money off of this. I think it's got less ratings and less reviews overall, and a lower rating than Shadow of the Conqueror. So shout out to that. Shout out to Shad for fucking obliterating Australia forever. Australia forever. Australia forever. Fly a fucking Northern Cross flag or Southern Cross flag. The Aussies got us. Aussies have the best propagandist that's been I've read a novel on here so far. The last point, which I should always do, how to fix it. This is one of the few where I would say, unironically, probably shouldn't have been written in general. It's just so sloppy that you have to cut so much of it down. I think the main point that I made, and that should be gone to, is this book is basically like 4 shortened and poorly executed other books badly mushed together. A longer form story of almost any of the singular individual plot elements would have been much more interesting. If you want to do like some gigantic anti-black fucking like grifter propaganda about Levon, a single book about a bad guy race grifter, Levon, basically destroying Detroit from within by using identity politics and blackmail and threats of racial unrest and stuff, would have probably gone a lot further than having him be the D plot, as I think that at the point where it was introduced, the D plot of this book. This book has, I think, you could go all the way to you could reasonably go to E for individual full thread, full narrative plots. We have Brett, we have Ellen, his wife, who has a full B plot that is completely unrelated to her husband's existence at all, except for a few times where they somehow cross paths for literally no good reason, because Ellen's character could just be a person that's not married to the main guy, and that could be its own thing. You have Prescott's entire subplot. It's an entire thing, which is just completely disjointed. All of Prescott's scenes could not exist. Prescott's uninteresting. He's a bad person who's boring and just exists to say democratic stuff while being a buffoon. He's literally just a clown character, but I feel like Prescott's scenes take up a good 20% of the book or something. That could just be gone. There's nothing of value. There's nothing to be restrained from there. There's probably some sort of plot. No, I'm not even going to try because that's too much work. The standard action hero plot for Brett is just any Jason Bourne, any good guy with a gun novel that fucking boomers love. That could have just been its own thing where Prescott's the sort of bad guy and not include all of these other things. The Soledad thing could have probably been the closest you ever get to Ben Shapiro writing a great American novel. I will say the Soledad, even though it's dog shit here, even though it's terrible, the Soledad subplot is the most interesting narratively and the most unique. Because it's a story based on a real story, sort of. A rancher, right, gets into a standoff, and then in a fucking post-crisis America creates a roving band of ethnically diverse ANCAP terrorists who travel throughout America, overthrowing the local governments and eventually killing the president. That sounds kind of cool. That sounds actually remotely sick. That's the plot for a 1970s motorcycle movie. I would watch that. I don't know if it would be good, but that's the most interesting one. And if done right, that could actually be a sick ass plot to a very interesting thing. And you could also do all of the federal government bad, local government good, hey, we should balkanize militia bullshit that you want to talk about and, hide it under the guise of it's the great American travel story. I think that would work. The Ellen subplot is, I don't know. I think that could be a good, interesting, like John Grisham-y type thriller. Just a woman that is kind of like a fly on the wall, or like a high level player between, like, just literally, you know, a legal thriller about Texas seceding from the Union and possibly going to war. Could be extremely interesting if done well. Ben Shapiro does not have the chops, or quite literally the knowledge, it seems, to ever be able to execute that. It's fucking wild. How little he seems to know about even like local government politics. It's bizarre that he exposed himself so badly. Who else are we left with after that? That's pretty much it. So yeah, A, B, C, D, E. E plots. There's 5 full body plots in this book, most of which are completely pointless or forgettable or tacked on. And there's just so many speeches. I would say the one that's most in Ben's wheelhouse would probably be the easiest one to write, which is the one he's least capable of doing, which would be the like Jack Reacher, guy with a gun subplot, boomer action book, you know, fucking, what's the one with the 4x4, that kind of thing. Something that could star The Rock, where The Rock goes back to his hometown kind of thing and then beats up some guys. One of those. Walk Hard. That could work. It couldn't work, actually. I don't think he has the talent or the skill for it, but it's definitely the thing that would be the easiest to do, because those books, you could shit one of those books in a fucking weekend, I swear to God, and get it out there. How the fuck are there 5 plots in a 200-page book? Because he has the weirdest writing style I have ever seen. It's so strange that Ben Shapiro has the opposite of an eye for detail. He has a stomach for detail, basically. He will expound upon shit and add shit and go off on tangents and do his weird little conspiracy shit and his dog whistles and his asides and his nods to things that actually happened. And like he'll try. He basically just gish galloped the whole story, if I had to really get to it. Now that I think about it, he just did to his typewriter what he tries to do to like college students, but he didn't have a time limit. So he just starts talking about something, and then when he reaches the natural end of his creativity, which is almost instantaneously, and the end of the pre-programmed talking points, like he just starts going into the talking points. Like he literally just does talking points throughout the entirety of this book, at least 5 or 6 per chunk. I don't know how to even say chapter. There's like parts and then people's names. And then once those are kind of done, it's like, fuck, I don't know. Next part, like you can see little gaps and stuff where he was just like, well, I believe that's sufficient to explain this. There is no sense of like poetry. So to say, I know that sounds so fucking lame. There is no sense of connection or craft or love for this story. There's like, even with Shad, even as dog shit as that book is, you could tell there was parts that he really enjoyed, or that he really wanted to get across, because he has a sort of like deep connection to it. You know what I mean? There was passion there, misguided as it was. And some of the passion was for the most inappropriate things you could fucking imagine. But there was none of this for Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is, I earnestly believe this, an empty person. I normally wouldn't say that and like be so upfront about it. You know, people can be bad, people can be misguided, but I think Ben Shapiro might legitimately be empty. And I think that might drive him crazy. I think he actually is legitimately like a diagnosable like sociopath, whatever, or psychopath, whatever, whichever one is like, you're super acoustic. You like literally can't understand other people. You just facts over feelings the entire time. I think that's him. I don't know if that's like an into your brain type thing, like you're born with a chronic thing. But yeah, somebody just said he skipped 2 grades. He must be a genius. That just smacks of parental abuse. Wait, parental abuse isn't always just like your dad fucking gets drunk and comes home and breaks a bottle over your head. Shit like taking kids for your own like edification and like to brag, taking kids out of school early, preventing them from being able to adjust to normal life and like social interactions. Like honestly, him skipping 2 grades of school is the most straightforward like explanation of why he's so fucking weird I think I might ever get. Like, you need to go to school, even if it sucks. Okay? Like, you have to go to school. You have to learn to socialize with people. All right? Yeah, it's gonna suck. Yeah, they're fucking dog shit. Everyone fucking hates high school, but it is part of the growing pains of learning how to develop a personality and understand other people's. It is, if you skip 2 grades, what, you're gonna be a fucking 8-year-old around 10-year-olds and then also be fucking twerp built? Imagine being 16 as a fucking senior. Just get fucking put in a fucking trash can. Dude, you might as well just homeschool the kid and just completely fucking ruined him. I think he has a severe neuroatypicality that prevents him from understanding other people. It's on point in this. It's just so apparent. Like I thought this so many times when I was reading through it. Like, this guy does not like any people. He doesn't get them. He has no time for them. Even the people he describes like pleasantly are still described in an alien and unaffected way. I would say Bubba Davis is probably the most liked person in this story. And he's like basically, just a fucking like fat, exhausted hillbilly. Even though he's supposed to be like one of the good guys. Ellen has no personality at all. Ellen's like in the entire thing, and all Ellen does is wander around from guy to guy, thinking about other guys the entire time. Like, what does this dude want me to do? What can I do for this dude? My husband or my fucking work husband? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Brett has no real personality. Brett's personality was, I was in the military and I'm sick of bullshit. That's his entire personality. Maybe he just like, and this is the thing too, all like Ben Shapiro treats every fact with the same level of scrutiny and attention throughout the entirety of this thing. The color of a wallet will be given the same amount of attention and like impact in the prose as the love a guy feels for his wife. You know what I mean? Like, it's just 2 sentences. He loves her very much. He loves her very, very, very much. I have said it multiple times. Bazinga. Like, bro, what in the fuck? Like, when he wrote this, does he not understand? Like, has he read a book? Actually, is a great question. Because I know this dude likes to opine on stuff, but I feel like, has he read a book is a good question. More and more, it makes sense why Republicans like candy movies. Like, they like their candy movies, fucking Marvel and shit, because they don't require anything of you. Marvel's just brain shit. You know what I mean? Good guy, bad guy, funny noise, fart joke. Some of them were pretty good at the beginning. I liked seeing a superhero movie that lived up to making superheroes look cool. But that's bottom of the bar as far as comics go. I don't really need much more than that. How would I fix it? Yeah, I don't think you could. I really don't think. I don't think it's worth the effort. I would just end up describing entirely new properties at this point. The best you could do is unravel the rope that this is. I talked myself hoarse. And try to get it back together. And how are you guys doing? I did it this time. 2 hours over. Default. Oh, there we go. Bye, everyone. Auf Wiedersehen. Let's see.